So today we're going to try out, learn how to use the replication features of Tinychain. The first step is always exactly the same, which is to grab the latest release. Grab that from GitHub, the releases page, and I'll put the link in the description. Let's also make sure we have the latest version of the client. I just learned about this upgrade command, which is super helpful. So that's the latest version of the client, latest version of the server. Make this executable. And if we look at the code that we defined in the last demo, or the last tutorial, you can see we have a database and a web server. And we're just running here one of each, which is, of course, not very realistic. Really, you would want to have multiple instances of a server running for redundancy, or multiple instances of a cluster. You don't want one to go down and then take down your whole application. So today, we'll learn how to replicate this web server, which you can see it has a little bit of state of its own to manage. It has this B tree that's keeping track of the number of views of a given movie so that it doesn't have to make that request, keep making that request to the database over and over and over again. So the first step is to add a host name to the URI of the cluster. And this tells Tinychain that anytime you start a new instance of the web cluster, it's got to check here for the current replica state. And then we'll have to add a port to our start host function. And we'll have to add that port to the file paths because we don't want multiple instances trying to read from the same directory. So we'll grab the port from the default port from the URI of the cluster. And let's see what happens when we run that. Get this helpful error message that says a replicated op may not perform inter-service writes. So that's because this put method here that's replicated is trying to write to a different service. So we don't want that request to be repeated multiple times as this is replicated. So there's an easy fix. We'll just make this a post method. Post methods replicate the individual writes. And since it's a post method, we're not limited to just a key and a value here. We can have multiple parameters. So I'll add also the year. I'll just make that a separate parameter in the description, separate parameter, and reference those here. And we'll also need to change this request a little bit. Post movie is up. And then, of course, we don't want just one web host. We want multiple web hosts. So we'll make this a list and then say we'll start 3 web hosts. So here is this one. We'll start 3 web hosts. And let's actually just make this a function. Then return these host instances handles. And this should Tinychain uses fast Byzantine multipass, so it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a master like there is in MySQL. It doesn't matter which host you send a write request to. It will automatically be replicated. So I'll just pick host number 1. No reason not to. And then we can import that function that we just defined. For I in range 3. DB web start host. So now those hosts are up and running. Let's see how many views that movie has. Web views. So on host number 1 it has 0 views. Host number 2, same thing. Host number 3, same thing. So let's say, I'll just pick again at random. I'll say on host number 2, we'll put a request to app web and view for up. Completed successfully. So here on host number 2, it's now one view, and you can see that's successfully replicated to the other host, so everything kept in sync, just as you would expect, and that's how to use replication with Tinychain.